36 months under the former Finance Minister, Dr. Dufour, and His Excellency, the late John Evans Atamils. So it's been a long time coming. In 2017, 2018, we also recorded single-digit inflation under President Akufo-Addo before the COVID 2019, there about the latter part of 2019, going into 2020 when COVID-19 happened. Now, this is the statement from my John Online, a bit of a snapshot of the excerpt, and it reads, Ghana records single-digit inflation for the first time since August 2021. So this is where my 4 years is coming from. As September 2025, inflation falls to 9.4%. It's coming from somewhere, some 11.5% in August. Now, when you go through the data, you see a snapshot of Ghana's inflation. So, for example, in September 2024, Ghana's inflation was somewhere around 21.5%. It declined to 22.1%. Then there was an uptick in November 2024 to 23%. It again went up to 23.8% in December 2024. Now you can see that it's been declining since January 2025. So let's go through the numbers. In January 2025, inflation was 23.5%. In February, it was 23.1%. In March 2025, it was 22.4%. It reduced further to 21.2% in April 2025. In May 2025, to 18.4%. In June 2025, to 13.7%. July 2025, to 12.1%, then August 2025 to 11.5%, then September 2025, currently 9.4%. The first time recording a single-digit inflation in 4. Now, someone who asks, between April and May, what happened? There was a bit of a sharp decline, and also between May and June, that is where the currency, we're hovering around 14. We almost came to about 10 Ghana cedis to $1. So that is accounting for the inflation that we saw there around that period. And as I've always said on radio, there's a direct correlation between how your currency is performing and also your inflation. Now, this is how the original inflation looks, because someone will be sitting there and Eugene, you say inflation is coming down, but I'm not seeing it. So let me explain. When you say inflation is coming down, it doesn't mean that the prices of food are static. What it basically means is that the price at which the cost of services and products were increasing is going at a slower rate compared to the previous year. So, for example, last month, inflation, that is August 2020, was 11.5%. Means that foods, goods and services and all that, largely food, was going up or increasing at 11.5 percentage point compared to 9.4 currently. So it means that though food prices are going high, but at a reduced rate. So, for example, if you bought America, say 13 cedis in July, and you bought it at say 12.70 pesos or 12.70 pesos in August, it means that now you buy it at, let's say, 12.77, right? It should have maybe gone to 13, but now it just increased by some 7 pesos or so. So it's not as if prices are static, it's not as if prices are not increasing. They are still increasing, but at a slower rate compared to the previous month. Now, when you look at this gives a snapshot of the country, the 16 regions, how they are all faring when it comes to inflation. So the middle, the one you see, which is the light blue, is the national inflation, which is 9.4%. And you can see that Bunu East region, the Savannah region, Oti region, Ahafo region, Bunu region, Greater Accra region, Central region are recording far less inflation compared to the national inflation of 9.4. Now, what is curious is that the Greater Accra region is recording an inflation of 7.7%. So meaning that things are relatively cheaper in Accra compared to, for example, in Ashanti region, where we are recording 10.7% of inflation. So that is a bit of curiosity in there. Now, I listened to the boss of the Ghana Statistical Service, and he explains this to mean that it's because of the non-homogeneous nature of the regions. All the 16 regions do not have the same demography. They do not have the same population size, and therefore that absence of homogeneousness is accounting for how the inflation is reflecting across the 16 regions when you look at this snapshot. Now, this is food inflation. It's not just the national inflation or the aggregated inflation that is also going down. When you look at food inflation, that is the one in the, is it lemon green? I'm not good with colors. And this one is a bit of the orange. I know Leo beat me right after I'm done. So these are the colors. So the one that looks a bit orange-like Fanta, the one that is the non-food inflation. The one that looks more like the Sprite is food inflation. So food inflation in August 2025 was 14.8%. It's reduced to 11%. That is huge. So meaning that food is also relatively coming down. When it comes to non-food inflation, transportation and the others, it was also around 8.7% in August 2025. Now we are doing 8.2%. So that is also a bit interesting. Now one thing I want us to draw attention to, and when I listen to the boss of the Ghana Statistical Service, is this chart, because normally when you discuss inflation, we leave this part out. Now look, note here, this table basically is looking at locally produced items compared to imported items. Now, why this conversation is important? Often in the studios of Love FM, we've criticized, why are we not producing this in Ghana? Why are we importing this in Ghana? But there's an answer here. When you download the full data from the Ghana Statistical Service of the inflation, you see something that is very curious. This column is talking about locally produced items, and they are comparing the inflation of these locally produced items compared to the items we import into the country. Now, what is the data? When you go through, as of September 2025, the inflation for, as I said, locally produced items is 10.1%. Meanwhile, the inflation for imported items, and I know Leo will be curious about this, is 7.4%. So meaning that it is cheaper to bring in goods into the country than to produce. Again, I listened to the Ghana Statistical Service was, and this explanation is that it's because of the best, or it's because of the good performance of the currency that people feel that it is easier, it is convenient, it is cheaper to go to China, to go to Thailand, to whatever, and bring in goods than to produce here. Again, we also need to have a conversation about the electricity, the kilowatt percent and all that. So beyond we recorded a 9.4 single-digit inflation, a record inflation in 4 years, we need to look at some of these numbers. Why are locally produced goods extremely expensive compared to imported goods? We need to look at that, because the more you import into your country, the more you are not creating jobs for your team in you. Now, someone will be home and will be asking, why is inflation important to me? Let me give you this. If you remember, the IMF in April 2025 predicted inflation, or Ghana's inflation, to end by 2025, some 17.5%. This, if you are recording 9.4%, which is almost half of that, it gives investor confidence. Someone will look at Ghana and say that the economic stability is in there. Let me come into the country, let me bring in my money, let me set up businesses for others to do. Again, the Bank of Ghana is in known target some 12% to end the year of inflation. We are doing 9.4%. So again, the investor confidence is there. As I said, to the youth ordinary Ghana, it means that prices are relatively stable. You can plan and all that. Again, the policy rate to those who are into businesses and loans. Remember, at a point, Ghana was having about the third highest, monetary policy across the sub-region, some 29%. The Bank of Ghana on the 1st of October cut the monetary policy from 25%, what you call the interest rate, the monetary policy, from 25% to 21.5%. So meaning that when inflation is good, it's also reflecting how much the bank give you a loan, or the cost of loan. So head out to previously, before 1st October, you would have gotten, say, for example, 25% when you are going for a loan at the bank. Today, it's 21.5%. So this is good news. We just hope the Bank of Ghana maintains it. We just hope that it's reflecting the lives of the people and traders. Let us all enjoy the reduction in the inflation. My name is Eugene Osei. Thank you for watching this episode of The Breakdown. We come your way on Wednesday with more exciting conversations on the radio.